Welcome back to ParaGhoul Paranormal Discoveries from the Dark. I'm your host, Katie Kulpa, and today we have another guest episode, so I'm super excited to introduce to you to our guest today. Joining us is Josh from You Say Whoa on TikTok. We have met and talked paranormal stories before, Josh and I, because of his Scary Saskatchewan series on TikTok. But he's also has been involved in many paranormal investigations in Saskatchewan. And he's on here today to talk about, spooky stories, the paranormal investigations. We'll probably talk a little bit about everything, but we'll see where it goes. So, welcome, Josh, to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I guess can you start by telling us a bit about yourself and like how you got into paranormal stuff?
Yeah, so for me, my interest in the paranormal goes back to being a wee lad, a young child. And I grew up in a house where we had lots of cousins visiting quite regularly. And a lot of those cousins, I think looking back now, probably had like overactive imaginations. And every little activity that would happen in our house that they could not explain, whether it was a weird bang or a creak in the walls or whatever. It had to have been a ghost or something worse. Um, and so growing up in that environment, it really kind of piqued my interest. We would watch lots of scary movies and everything like that. And then going forward as an adult, it was an interest that never really left me. And I remember even just like being a teenager and my best friend when I was a kid, his name was Chad. We would often hang out at his house on Saturday nights because there was a block of programming on YTV called The Dark Corner, and it was all of these shows like that talked about ghosts and different things like that. So we would watch these shows, and then we decided that we would try and do our own little ghost hunts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it would be simple things like we would set up the camcorder in the corner of the bedroom when, because I lived at his house when I was younger too. Like I was there so frequently that when his sister moved out, his parents said, "Hey, you have your own bedroom now." and and so oftentimes at sleepovers, we would, like I said, set up the camera in the corner of the room and let it record while we would sleep because there were stories that his sister had about their house as well. And uh, we caught some strange things on video, but it could have just been reflection. Like there was an aquarium in one corner and the TV was on the other side and the camera was facing the aquarium and we could see these reflections, and at one point, it looked like there was like legs that kind of passed in front of the camera and blocked
Ooh.
out the reflection of the TV on the aquarium. Um, was it paranormal? I don't know. Could it have been just something on the television that, looked like
Looked kind of weird.
legs passing by? Very possible, right? So, um, yeah. And then going into uh, a period in time where I was fortunate enough to participate in, I don't know, half a dozen to a dozen paranormal investigations at a major network of museums here in the province of Saskatchewan. So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and again, it really is just an interest that arose from stories as a kid and an interest that continues because I love to hear stories, and there are so many great ghost stories out there.
Oh, I find that too. And I find as soon as you tell people that you have an interest in hearing ghost stories, that everyone seems to have a story.
It really is true. It's one of those things where um, people that you don't expect to have an interest in the paranormal, maybe not even an interest, but just an experience or a story. And then you mention it. And it happened just recently where there was a parent on my son's lacrosse team. We were talking at lunch and I had mentioned something about ghost stories. We were in Weyburn, which is a place where I have done some investigations, and I had kind of mentioned that. And then he told me this great story about his grandparents' house and some experiences that he had there. And I would not have expected somebody like him to be somebody who's had an experience, but it just goes to show that you never know where you're going to get a story.
Oh, that's very true. Yeah. It's always interesting. Yeah, Weyburn. I still haven't gone to Weyburn. I gotta get there one of these days. I think that'd be an interesting spot.
Yeah, it's I've only been there a handful of times, both for lacrosse. My son's lacrosse team plays there regularly, and then two paranormal investigations, which um, led to some interesting results. Again, I don't know how much of it was actually paranormal, but just a quick story about the one investigation that we went on. Part of it, I think, the folks that I was investigating with, they have a YouTube channel and they create their own content, and they invited me to come out and participate. So I went out, and they really built it up to be this, like, I was expecting, to go into a place like the Winchester Mystery Mansion where there's like tons
Oh,
of stories, right? Like I
yeah.
was expecting nonstop activity, and then it was pretty quiet. Not a lot happened. And the one weird thing though that happened was at one point, so it was at the Tommy Douglas Performing Arts Centers where we had conducted this
Okay.
investigation. And the history of that building, it was a church that was located in downtown Weyburn that had been relocated in the 80s or 90s to Signal Hill, which is apparently another part of the city that has a storied history around paranormal activity. And the church is famous because it was, to the best of my knowledge, the only church where Tommy Douglas, former premier of Saskatchewan, actually served as minister before venturing off into politics.
Okay.
And so the church is now converted into a performing arts center. There's a small Tommy Douglas museum associated or attached to the building, and then there is a basement. And at one point during the investigation, where I'm sitting on the main floor, which still very much looks like a church, the stage obviously looks very different. It's not like a church. It's now a stage, and I'm sitting in one of the pews, and one of the other investigators is sitting in another set of pews. And one of the stories that we're hearing about these spirits in the building is that they like to whistle. And so I'm sitting in the pew. This guy is sitting, I don't know, 10 feet away from me. And then there's a third investigator, but he's in the basement and he's doing a spirit box session. And so we could hear everything that was happening. And I just decided I would sit there and I was going to whistle. So all I did was just like that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we heard a whistle come back, and it was like the exact same length, the exact same tone as what I whistled. And I heard it, but I didn't react right away. But the guy who was with me, he's like, "Was that you again?" And I said, "No, I only whistled once."
Yeah.
And so he heard it and I heard it. And he's like, "Well, it wasn't me because I can't even whistle." And so that was the one strange occurrence that we had that night. And I uh, kicked myself because we were kind of in a moment of downtime and I wasn't recording at the
Oh
time.
no. Oh darn, hey.
So I missed it. And but it's still a neat story to come out of there. And I mean, there's, tons of other stories around people experiencing, strange sounds, feet coming up and down or stomping up and down stairs in the back of the building, and things of that nature. And that wasn't my experience there. Um, I also sometimes feel like now, too, being a little bit older and having done more of these investigations, I think I'm a bit more skeptical
Oh yeah.
as well. And so I do try to find those, logical explanations for what we're hearing. And I think that kind of conflicted a little bit with the investigators that I was working with, because they really, I think well, I know they fed off of each other. And
Yeah.
so for them, like one would hear something and the other one would kind of corroborate what they were hearing. And then there was me, it's like, well, I don't know. Are you sure that's what it was? Because to me, it sounded like the heating system kicked in. um,
Yeah.
and so that was, maybe that's why I didn't have the experience, because I was closed off a little bit more that night. I don't know, but still a cool experience nonetheless.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's what I find. I I always when people, people tell me about watching these paranormal investigation shows and YouTubes, and I'm probably unpopular for saying, I don't believe like 80% of the stuff that they talk about because I'm like, really, they're just feeding off each other and you got to make it exciting, right? Because
Mhm.
otherwise it's boring, which is probably why I don't know that I'd ever do paranormal investigation as a YouTube show because I feel like then you're just looking for something and it's not necessarily a paranormal experience.
Exactly. And to me, what's interesting is having been on, I'm by no means a professional, and maybe you can't even call somebody a professional in the world of paranormal. I don't know, but um, uh, my experiences have found, so I've never seen anything on any paranormal investigation. I've had several experiences where I've heard things
Yeah.
that I cannot explain. And many situations where there are things that have happened that it's like, oh, we've been able to recreate that sound. So it's probably, something maybe fell and, caused that sound, and whatever the case may be. But I found most often when we were having these experiences, when we were actually sitting there actively trying to solicit or elicit a response, nothing would happen.
Yeah.
But the second we would stop and we would just start talking amongst ourselves, that's when things would start happening and these sounds would start occurring. And situations like that happened countless times, and I don't know why that is. If the spirits are able to, um, I guess, tune into what we're doing as well.
Yeah.
Maybe it's their way of saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm not going to respond because you're trying to find me, but I'll play a trick on you when you're not expecting it." Right? I don't know how it works, but
Yeah.
that is a strange thing that I can't quite explain why it happens, or at least in my experience, it happened that way.
Yeah, well, not, I think and that's what I find too, is a lot of the times, you purposely go to a place because I like going to paranormal locations just to see if anything happens.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't go there expecting anything to happen because I find that's when nothing happens. You get there and it's like, well, this is really quiet and enjoyable time. And sometimes I also find when talking to people about their experiences, like the paranormal activity they've experienced doesn't happen at 2 a.m. It happens 10 a.m. or it happens at 2 p.m. Like it can happen anytime.
Yes, absolutely, and that's something that I uh, have been wondering because a lot of people will talk about, oh well, the prime time or the witching hour is 3 a.m. and so and then people say, well, time is a man-made construct, and so it's like all of these things happen all over the world, and it's like, how do the spirits know that it's like 3 a.m. in
3 a.m. at that in
Egypt,
that
or
location.
yeah, or 3 a.m. in Vancouver, right? Like,
Yeah.
how does that, and that's the part that always confuses me, because a lot of these investigation shows do happen in the middle of the night, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, what happens if we went in at noon and tried to do it? Would we still get responses, or does it have to be dark and spooky? And do we get bonus points if there's thunder and lightning in the background? Right. So yeah, and I mean, obviously there are a lot of people who find a big interest in doing stuff like that, and there certainly is a rush to it. Like,
Yeah.
it is. I had so much fun doing the investigations because I got to meet some very fun people. I got to have some very spooky experiences. But yeah, there is so much downtime, and it is often very boring too. Like, if you can sit there in a location for 10 hours and maybe have activity for 15 minutes. And then, there might be things, depending on what kind of equipment you're using, where you can go and you have to review all of the evidence.
Yeah.
And so if you have four cameras recording and three audio recorders recording, and then you have handheld cameras that you're using as well, that could be 10 devices that you're having to review, and that obviously takes a lot of time. And you may pick up some stuff, but you may not. And so certainly if people want to try it, I would, obviously do it safely. Make sure you have permission to enter any locations that you want to investigate. But be prepared for lots of quiet time and downtime. And it's like watching paint dry.
Yeah, it kind of is sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something I never talk enough about is my own horror books. They are the heart of my storytelling and a huge part of why this show even exists. If you ever want to dive deeper into the kind of tension and eerie atmosphere that I explore here, but in fiction, then my books are all on my website at kdkulpa.com. They've been such a joy to write, and I really hope that my readers love them just as much as I do. Yeah. Oh, I find them funny. And yeah, even like well, like at the government house when we were there just doing a tour, we weren't even trying to get anything. And we had a weird knock on the camera, like happen right behind my husband who was filming. And when he was by himself, he was just taking B-roll. He wasn't even like
Hmm.
trying to get anything. And we
Yeah.
had a weird knock right behind him. So it was like, so yeah, I love doing them. Um, but not to show things. It's more just to go sit there and like you said, you're typically sitting there quietly
Yeah.
waiting for something to happen and it doesn't always happen, which is why I always struggle watching those shows. I find them just fantastic for entertainment more than anything. I don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. I have had the opportunity to be on set, I guess, as they would say, for two episodes of The Other Side, which is a paranormal investigation
Oh,
show filmed. Well, I think it's filmed all over Canada now, but certainly their first season was filmed throughout Saskatchewan. And there were two episodes that featured the Western Development Museum, and that's where I worked at the time. And I was featured in the episode, and we filmed combined two episodes, 6 days of filming, um, and lots of downtime. And they like each day was three, or sorry, each shoot was 3 days long, and they trim that down into 22 minutes. And there is so much content that people do not get to see. Like, because we had some pretty cool things happening in the building. Um, but there's a lot that people didn't get to see because it's cut down to 22 minutes too. So I often wonder on the other side, it's great for entertainment. There's lots of downtime. There's lots of, um, you know, excitement that they, whether it's a 60-minute show or a 30-minute show, and then of course you have to factor in the time for commercials, but so you're looking at what, 22 to 44 minutes depending on the show. And I often wonder, like, what hits the cutting room floor that we don't actually get to see too, right? Like,
that's
there's
true.
probably, if they could do a director's cut, and or even if it was just like upload things to YouTube so people can go in and check it out, I think there would be lots of cool content that we don't get to, we don't get a chance to see either.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah. Well, yeah, especially when you have, I forget what the show is called. They used to stay in, was it like 3 nights or 3 days? And they would just film the entire time they were there.
Yeah, I can't remember what that show's called, but there was also that one on Netflix. Was it 28 Days Haunted or something?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, where they like visited multiple locations and they each had a team of two, I think,
Something like that. Yep.
in three different locations for 28 days. Like the amount
A
of
lot of
content,
content.
yeah, to review that. And yeah, it would. I often wonder, do they actually review every single piece of footage? Because
That's true. Yeah.
that would take a very long time unless you have a very large team.
Yeah. Or if they just key in on the points that the people that are in the show say, "Oh, well, something happened here," but like, what if a camera picked up something in a different room that nobody knows?
Yeah, exactly, right.
Yes.
And that yeah, that's the great unknown. Who really knows for sure what's happening? It's like the old, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? I don't know
Yeah.
even know if I got that right, but it's that kind of idea. And I know, like, the investigations that I've participated in we had a team of individuals who would actually go through and review footage from every device that they had. And so we would do the investigation, and then, it would be 2 or 3 weeks before we actually would hear from them what evidence they had captured. And these are folks who they weren't in it for money. Like, they never charged for these investigations. They all had, full-time day jobs, and so they were balancing their passion for paranormal investigations with their lives.
Live, yeah.
And so they would, like I said, review every piece of footage from all audio recorders, and they would have, anywhere from 4 to 6, maybe even more stationary cameras recording. They would have all of the handheld cameras that would record some video, some would just be still photos. Um, and they would review it all. And sometimes they would come back. We did one investigation where there was absolutely nothing captured. And it wasn't
Oh
like
no.
no strange banging sounds from just the building heating up or cooling down or anything, right? Like, it was just, there was nothing that they could identify as any sort of anomaly. Um, Whereas other situations, they would come back and there would be, they would have maybe 20 pieces of evidence to share with us. And it could be something as strange as, or as simple rather, as, here's a weird knocking sound. And we listened to, 15, 20 minutes of footage just to see, like, oh, is it cyclical? Is there, like, can we explain? Does it seem like it's a pattern? And but nothing, right? So here's just a strange thing that's occurred. To here's a weird shape on this camera. It looks like it could be a bug flying in front of the infrared light, but
Oh,
it doesn't follow like the typical flight path that you might see from an insect flying in front of this. And so they were fairly thorough in what they would review and bring forward
yeah.
as evidence. But yeah, there was still sometimes it's like, well, I don't know. You claim to hear one thing, I'm hearing another thing, and I guess that's part of it too, right? Is it's
Yeah.
all kind of like subjective to what one person hears and identifies that sound as.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It would be a big perspective. Each person would have their own perspective of what not only the experience or what they hear, but yeah, just what it is too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a fun world, and like I said, if I do encourage folks to, if you want to try it, to do so, but obviously be respectful. I mean, I talked about being a bit more skeptical in my old age, but it's I like I said, I have also had experiences that I just can't figure out or explain, and so if there are spirits out there, I mean, you want to be respectful to them as well, right?
oh,
Like, it's,
definitely. Yeah.
you are venturing into their space, and maybe it's uninvited because you don't hear the spirit say, "Hey, come on in and take a seat."
Exactly. Yeah.
So yes, be respectful of the space that you're in, of the folks that you're with, of the community that you're in as well, because I know there are some folks who may not completely agree with venturing into the world of paranormal activity. So you might get some comments from people who live next door to wherever you are, whatever the case may be. Yeah, just be respectful through it all, I think.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
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 And the other, like when it comes to paranormal stuff, that I also find to be an interesting turn of events now, too, is just seeing, like, because we're in a world of content generation where anybody with a phone can create stuff. You see so many cool things that are out there now, and some people are pretty creative, and the skill sets are quite high for a lot of people too. So you never know what's real and what isn't, right?
Oh,
And
exactly. Yeah.
lots of faked content out there for sure.
Yep. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and yeah, and even with like the Hollywood shows, maybe they don't necessarily fake it, but they definitely hype up what could be, like you said, a furnace kicking in, or what could be like they hype it up and make it exciting when realistically
Yes, yes.
that
I
doesn't mean
think
anything.
I know. To me, one of my favorite paranormal investigation shows, because I think they have a good balance of like, there is some of the spooky factor that plays into it. They have a good balance with humor, and then you have one host who is a true believer and the other host who does not believe in anything. And it's BuzzFeed Unsolved, which has
Okay.
gone on to become Ghost Files now, I think is what they call it. And so you have Ryan, who is the guy who believes everything or believes in all things ghostly and paranormal. And then you have Shane, who, I mean, he's out there and he's challenging spirits and legend, whether it's like demons or whatever. Like he's out there calling them out, and some people might say they're being disrespectful. Uh, and there have certainly been times it's like, well, that's probably uncalled for. You don't need to take that approach, but it still is. To me, it's entertaining because you do get that balance of you have somebody who is terrified because of what might happen and they don't want to step into a room, and then you have the other guy who's like, oh, I'll go in there and do it, no problem, and I'll call out whatever spirit's in there because nothing's going to happen, and
Yeah,
nothing has happened. And so it's like, I don't know, why is that, right?
well, that's
If
true.
so I don't know, there's just so many variables that play into the world of paranormal that I also just listened to a podcast where they talked about Ed and Lorraine Warren, who a lot of people view as like the godfather or the godparents of paranormal, at
Yeah,
least commercialized paranormal stuff.
yeah,
And that was an interesting listen as well, because I've certainly heard of folks talking about the Warrens and how a lot of their work has kind of been debunked, and they maybe shouldn't get the credit that they do, but uh, the hosts of this podcast all really do believe that, at least very early on, they probably did absolutely believe that they were helping people rid themselves of, I guess in Ed Warren's case, it was demons, and Lorraine using her psychic abilities to help spirits as well. Um, but there seems to be a point in time where they did transition more into wanting to make money versus helping people, but kind of got the sense that they still did believe in a lot of this stuff, but they also appreciated the money that came with the fame and the notoriety, I guess, of being paranormal experts.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Well, and I think that's what I'm finding even on this podcast too, is you dig into some of these even urban legends or claimed experiences, and you kind of go, well, but if you look at it from this perspective, though, that's not a thing. It's because well, and a lot of, especially urban legends, a lot of them come from, indigenous stories, and you're kind of like, but that doesn't necessarily mean there is a person that did all of those things. It was a story, it was a warning, it
Mm-hmm.
was a teaching,
Yes,
and but Western civilization spins it to this weird paranormal experience.
yes, you're absolutely right. And yeah, I can't even imagine how many times over, the course of mankind that has actually happened. I'm sure, uh, you know, probably more times than we can count,
Well, more than
without
likely,
a
yeah.
doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
It, I also find it interesting too when, people, uh, are like, sometimes just how aggressive they are when it comes to like pushing, something on you. And it's like, to me, I'm a big believer in like letting people, you can go into a location and know stories about it, but I would much rather like let you have your own experience and kind of draw your own conclusions on a situation,
Yeah.
as opposed to like you coming and be like, this is what happens and you have to believe it, and if you're not going to believe it, then whatever. But it's like, you know what, go in and have it, have your own experience, because maybe you'll have an experience that nobody else has had, right?
It's true. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just, and I don't know that that happens a whole lot, at least in the world of like simple, paranormal and ghostly activities, but maybe more so where there's um, some strong religious beliefs, I guess,
Mm,
associated with it, which certainly is in itself a sensitive topic,
oh,
and
definitely. Yeah.
could, I can certainly see how that would impact a person's approach to certain situations as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. It's just an interesting topic. Like, because it is unknown. You don't know, you can't prove what's real and what's not.
Hmm.
You can debunk all you can. Like I've seen ghosts and I know I've seen them, but at the same time, I'd never have a camera when, of course, that happens.
Yeah,
Or a recording device of any sort to kind of go,
yeah,
oh, well.
I know. I really, yeah, it's funny too because, like I said, I've never seen anything, and I like to think that I would probably like be able to react in a way that I would remain relatively calm in that environment or in that situation. But I honestly don't know how I would react. I know the times where I have heard stuff, like the one story that often comes to mind about hearing things. Um, I was doing an investigation in this old farmhouse, and it was like a hot summer day. Um, this old farmhouse had like, solid wooden doors and stuff like that. And we had gone up into the attic when we first got there because we would go through the building from top to bottom just to see what was in the building, look for things that could maybe cause strange sounds. And it was just kind of an opportunity to familiarize with the space.
Right,
And so we'd gone into the attic and we had to use the skeleton key to open the attic door to get up into the attic. And at the end of our little kind of walkabout, there was nothing of concern that, we couldn't find signs of rodents that maybe could be, you know, contaminate audio evidence or whatever.
right.
And so we had just closed the attic door, but we didn't lock it again. We just, in case anybody wanted to venture up there for an investigation. But because it was so hot and humid, the doors were all swollen and wouldn't fit properly.
Oh, yeah.
And so you basically had to like take your fist and pound in the top corner of the door to get it to close. And so fast forward to later in the night when we're out there doing the investigation, there was me and one other investigator. And there were three of us in our group originally, but one of the members of our team had to leave because she had to go back to the city because she had to work in the morning. So we were down to two of us. Other teams are kind of scattered about the property doing other things. So we decide we'll go back into the house because we knew nobody else was in there. So we go into the house and we are walking through every room in the house, and we get upstairs to the second floor, and I think there's three bedrooms and a bathroom, and then the door to get to the attic. And so go up to the top of the stairs. We go to the right, and we go through the first bedroom. We come out. We go through the second bedroom. There's like an open area in the hallway. Cross the open area, go to the third bedroom. We didn't go into the bathroom. And then we went in. I guess there must have been four bedrooms. So we went into the fourth bedroom, and we were about to sit on the floor, and there were like children's toys scattered about and everything. And the investigator that I was with had sat on the floor, and I was about to sit beside her. And she says, "If there's anybody here with us, can you move these toys across the floor?" Now, that's a question that we had asked, well, maybe not specifically about toys, but we've asked, if there's anybody here with us, can you do something countless
Yeah.
times? Not a lot ever happens, it seems, when that question is asked.
Yeah.
But in that moment, the toys didn't move, but we did hear like this. In the moment, it sounded like a screeching, scraping sound, and it scared the crap out of me. Like I shot up like a rocket. I don't even think I made it to sitting on the floor. And my partner, she says, "Oh, I think somebody came in the house." And I don't know how she stayed so calm, but
Oh,
she is like level headed. And so you hear me and it's like, "Hello." And like you could hear the fear in my voice,
yeah.
"Hello." And nobody's responding. And so we had walkie talkies. So we radioed the other teams to see if anybody had entered the house, and nobody's responding. And so now I'm thinking, like, great. We just had this spooky experience. I'm stuck in this house with who knows what, and nobody's responding to me. And it felt like an eternity between the time that I first tried to radio and then I radioed again. And finally, somebody did respond and say, "No, like nobody entered the house. You guys are still the only people in there." And like I said, it felt like a very long time, but like listening back to the audio recording, it probably was 30 seconds between the time that we heard the sound, we radioed the other teams, and then we came out of the room. And when we came out of the room, the only thing that was out of place was the attic door. And the attic door was wide open. And we know it was closed because when it was open, it blocked the bedroom door for the first bedroom that we had gone through. And
Oh,
so we had walked in and out of all of the rooms on that second floor. And uh, I don't know, like, did something kick the door open and run out? I have no clue. The real kicker about this whole thing, though, is that we had a stationary camera in that hallway.
yeah,
The problem was it was facing the opposite direction of the door.
of course.
And so if we had the door, or sorry, the camera facing towards that door, we probably would have caught some pretty cool evidence.
Yeah,
Um, like, and you know what? I honestly don't know that it was a living creature that had busted the door open because we did not come across any other animals in the house with us or anything of that nature. We didn't hear like footsteps running down the stairs or
yeah,
anything, right? It was just that door. And so I do believe something forced that door open. Um, where that something went, I don't know. What that something was, I don't know. Um, the cool thing though is like we wanted to see if we could get that to happen again. So
mhm,
when we went outside and we kind of regrouped with everybody and we let them know what we had experienced, we listened to our audio, we did all of this stuff, and then the lead investigator, he was the one who's like, okay, we got to try and see if we can recreate this. Like, how do we make this happen again? And so him and I go back into the house together, and we're just kind of hanging out in that hallway, and we're waiting for things to happen. And he's talking to whomever or whatever might be in the space, and he's just saying, hey, could you do this again? Like, we really just want to capture this, and he's like, we heard that you opened a door earlier. Could you do it again? And like, I hear a click, and I was like that. And then we noticed that the front door, because it was right at the bottom of the stairs, the front
yeah.
door popped open.
Oh,
And we caught that on video. And so I don't have the video anymore, unfortunately, but somewhere out there, I'm assuming the lead investigator would still have it, but I might be wrong. I haven't talked with him in a number of years, unfortunately, but uh, we caught that on video. And so it's a door, like a front door. There's a glass pane in the door. The infrared camera is focused on the door, and you do see the door pop open. And because of the reflection coming off of the infrared light, you
hmm.
can see the light shift in the door as well as it pops open. And
Oh,
so, was it another spirit or another entity? Maybe. Is it possible we just didn't latch the door properly when we came inside and it popped open? That's also plausible. We did go down there once that door opened, and we did close it, and we were jumping on the floor and on the space to try and see, like, does shifting weight do all of these things? Like, what can we do to try and get that door to pop open again?
yeah,
We weren't successful in that, so it seems the door did latch effectively, and maybe we just didn't push it closed tightly when we came back in. But maybe another spirit opened that door as well. I don't know. So those are my experiences, and that first one terrified me. Um, like I was very leery about going back in, and I know like how much that scared me, and that was just hearing something.
Yeah.
So how would I react if I were to see something? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I find hearing something is worse though. I feel like that's scarier because especially when you don't see what caused the noise. Whereas the times I've seen a ghost, typically I don't realize I'm looking at a ghost. It's just you see the shadow of somebody and you think, oh, someone's standing there. So then you go over there to talk to them, but then there's no one there and you're kind of like, okay, I imagine someone standing here.
That that makes a lot of sense. I could see
Yes.
that as well. I suppose so. The ghosts that you've seen, do they
Yeah.
very much just look like a
They just
human
look like,
figure?
yeah, usually they look like just shadow figures of people, but they look like people.
Hmm.
And so like one of them um looked around a corner of a door and I thought it was my husband. I just thought he looked around the corner of the door and was looking for me and it was dark. So I got up to go talk to him and here he was asleep in the bedroom. So it wasn't him. And there was no one else in the house. So like that's when I've seen them, that's what happens is I think, oh, so and so's here. Oh, it's my husband. And I go to talk to them and nobody there. Like you don't see features, but you just assume, well, it's because they're in the dark and that's why I don't see
Yeah.
their features, but you don't think about it. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Makes me wonder now, have I seen a ghost and maybe just assumed it was an actual person? I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess part of it too is like maybe this just shows like the commercialization of paranormal, but when we talk about ghosts, I think of like the white misty figure or
Oh yeah.
that type of thing. So
Yes.
maybe I would be scared if I saw that, but if it was just like you said, looks like a person where you can't quite distinguish the features, maybe I would be okay with that.
Yeah, that's typically, yeah, when I've talked to people that have seen them, it's what we talk about. It's like you see something, but you just think, oh, that's a person. So
Hmm.
then you go like I know my husband's has seen some in our house because ghosts like me. Uh, and he thought that he saw a woman's hand like disappear into our bedroom from the hallway. And so he'd walked up there thinking like, well, who's in our house? And the room was empty. So it's yeah, typically when we've seen them, it's you just think it's a person and you're like, hello, what are you doing here? And you
Yeah.
go to an empty room. So I mean it's weird after the fact and you get kind of
Mhm.
creeped out. But yeah, I find when I see them, it's not scary in the moment. Whereas if I see like something move that shouldn't be moving, or if I hear a sound that I don't know what caused it, I find that scarier in the moment, where you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. No, yeah, I get that. Because the times that I've heard things too, like I remember there was another time where we were in this building and there were three of us again. We were sitting there and it was one of those situations where we had been trying to get a reaction or a response and nothing was happening. And then we'd started to talk amongst ourselves and all of a sudden we could hear clear as day. It sounded like people talk about hearing footsteps all the time, but like this was a very distinct sound of like footsteps going up the stairs,
Oh yeah.
and these were like steel grating stairs, so like steel grate plates, and so it was a very distinct like ding ding ding,
Yeah.
and so listening back to the audio on that again, you could hear us talking, and then I think it was me. I was like, "Do you hear that?" And everybody got quiet, and then the other one of the women who was with me, she's like, yes, I do hear that. And I was like, it sounds like somebody is walking up the stairs. And she said, it does sound like somebody's walking up the stairs. And then the other guy who was with us, like he heard this and his reaction was like, I'm going after it. So he like took off running to see if he could figure out what it was. And
Yeah.
he went running out of the space past the staircase where we had heard the footsteps, because as he got closer to it, he thought he heard footsteps running out of the area that we were
Oh
in.
no way. Okay.
And so didn't capture anything like visual, but we
Yeah.
all heard these footsteps. And so when he came back, we went to the staircase that was nearby to see, like, could we hear it or like recreate it rather. And so as we're doing different things, and we're like one of the distinct sounds, like we could hear the railing rattling too.
Oh, okay.
And so we found that if you stood at the top of the staircase and if you just kind of shifted your feet back and forth, that caused enough movement to cause the railing to shake. And so
Oh,
the thought there is that maybe something went up the stairs and was just standing up there. So we
yeah,
could hear the railing shaking. And then, because we did hear, like, we heard the stairs or the steps on the stairs twice. And so the thought was that maybe when the guy started to chase after it, it came down the stairs and kind of ran out of the room or something like that, right?
yeah,
So yeah, I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about it. But so yeah, there's the unknown there because it really did feel like something was there with us and we could hear it, but not being able to see it, you know, is
yeah,
yeah, because you don't know what it is or who it is, right? So,
yeah.
and then the other weird thing too is that we've picked up. I wasn't in the area when this happened, but there was in another group. There was a person who was with two investigators, and so it was like a coworker who had gone out with these people, and so it was kind of her first time in this whole situation. And they're going through this area, and it was like there was a route that you were supposed to take through the area, but they were going through backwards.
Okay.
And this person, this person said it was weird because like she felt like something was trying to get away from them, and she just like she didn't know why she had that feeling, but it was like something was moving away from them as they would get closer. And so uh just hearing her experience was very interesting because fast forward to when we get the evidence and we're reviewing it, you can hear the people as they travel from the exit going
Yeah.
backwards. You can hear them off in the distance. You can hear them slowly getting closer. You can hear their footsteps shuffling on the concrete floor. You can hear them talking to each other. And then, uh, as they clearly enter the area where the audio recorder is, you hear a voice whisper, "Get back. They're looking at you."
Oh, no way.
And
Oh, I got chills.
yes. And so, like, knowing that this person had the experience that something was trying to hide or get away from them, and then you hear like something whispering, maybe to somebody else, they're looking at you, like,
Oh,
super cool experience.
yeah.
And then the other interesting thing that happened in this space was like there was it was like in a well, I talked about the WDM already, so
Yep.
story secrets out, it was at the WDM. And and uh, I don't remember the exact sequence of all this stuff happening, but that experience happened with the person feeling like something was get away from them. We had actually gone through the exhibit gallery before we had done the investigations, and we had taped off and shut down as many sound effects and everything that we could because we
Right.
didn't want all of the audio contamination. And when we were doing that setup, we there was me and one other person out there, and we were covering the sensors and everything, and we heard what sounded like the best way to describe it is like somebody taking a stick and smacking it on the side of something steel.
Oh,
And there's lots of steam engines in the area, and
yeah.
honestly, it sounded like somebody took a stick and hit the side of a steam engine. And I knew that anybody that was around, because we were all employees, nobody would do that to an artifact at all.
Yeah.
But we heard this sound and we're all like, we knew there was one other person in the building and she was at her desk. This was the person who had actually heard or had the feeling of this spirit trying
Oh,
to get
okay.
away.
Yeah.
So she was at her desk making these little, basically, we were taking pieces of painter's tape and tying a string to it, so that we could cover the sensors that were up high, and then we didn't have to dig out ladders at the end of the night, and we
You
could
just pull
just
it
pull the
down.
tape off.
Yeah.
And so she's at her desk doing that. We thought she had come out, maybe was trying to scare us. And so we're like, haha, very funny. Like, you're not going to get us. And then there was no response. And then we finished what we were doing, and we went back to her office, and she's still sitting at her desk doing the same thing. And we're like, good job. Like, you're trying to scare us. And she's like, what are you talking about? And we explained to her what we heard. And she's like, I have not left my desk at all.
Oh,
Like, she's like,
wow.
I've been here the whole time. And then fast forward to later in the night, um, we were set up in one gallery, which was like our base camp, and we were going to do our investigations on the other side of the building. And so, as we're all sitting there, kind of talking around, like just what the plan was for the night, we start to hear this sound effect going off, and we're like, "What the hell is that?" Like, it's super loud. There's nothing happening in this building, and everybody that's there. So we know where the sound effect is. We run over to that part of the building, and we're trying to, like, we're like, okay, we clearly missed a sensor, like,
Hmm.
somewhere. So we were able to find the sensor, and then the lead investigator, he's like, what we want to do now is see, like, where do we have to be to activate this sensor.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so it turns out, like, there was a text panel that you would walk up to read, and as you walked up to that panel, that would trigger the sensor. And it was about 3 feet from the text panel to um, where you would actually trigger the sensor. And so, what was interesting is where that audio recorder was set up, where that sensor was that we had missed, and where the people were coming in. You did kind of have to go around this corner, and then we're like, the obviously happened at different times, but we're like, something must have been hiding around this corner, triggered that sensor, and everything like that. We did taped it off eventually, but I do wonder, again, just based off where the audio recorder was, did something go around that corner again, and they were hiding from the people who were coming through, and that's
Yeah.
where we heard the "get back, they're looking at you." And the
Oh, it
reason
was
we
even that one. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And the reason we put that audio recorder where we did was because that sensor had been activated, and so we thought, let's see what we could record. And then that audio recorder also picked up a bunch of sounds from the same area, but it was clearly there was nobody in the area. Like, you could, because you could tell when people were walking in, you could hear their footsteps.
Yep.
We always had rules around, like, don't whisper. If you're going to talk, make sure you're speaking in your normal voice so that they can identify who's actually speaking. And you were actually supposed to kind of tag the audio as you walk through. So if you're going through a space, you would just say it's Josh passing through or whatever, so that
Oh, okay.
you
Yep.
knew. And there were times where we would hear, again, you could hear feet shuffling on the concrete floor, but you didn't hear the feet, like the footsteps walking into the area. You would just hear the footsteps shuffling in the
Oh,
space.
somewhere in the area.
But here's
Oh,
where it gets really cool too. You would hear what sounded like 2x4s on concrete floors. Very distinct sound, right?
yeah.
You're probably picturing it or imagining it
Yeah.
in your mind right now. And that's what we would hear, is like footsteps shuffling, and then like somebody moved a 2x4 on the concrete floor, or
Really?
kind of
Oh,
dropped it
interesting.
on the floor. And then fast forward, we realize that the space where these exhibits are now actually used to be where there was a volunteer workshop.
Oh,
And was it just a volunteer who was still helping
hang
out?
on. Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't know,
interesting.
but very cool experience for sure. That
Yeah.
yeah, I still, like I said, still get goosebumps thinking about it. And I kind of lost where my original thought was when I started to tell the stories, but I think they can stand on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think they definitely can.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember what we were talking about. We were talking about seeing ghosts and hearing things, I think is what we were talking
Oh,
about.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
But
that is
yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yes,
that's very cool.
there's some of my paranormal experiences over the years.
So do you plan on doing any more paranormal investigations or anything, or what are your future plans out?
Yeah, I would like to. The most recent one that I went on was in Moose Jaw. If you're familiar with
Oh,
Hopkins
yes.
Dining Parlor in Moose Jaw,
Yep.
last November I went on an investigation there, which was very cool. Um, I did not have any experiences. Again, I felt like we heard lots of sounds, but to me, because the house is 120 years old or whatever it is, 115 years maybe. I think it was built in 1905. And so it's hot water heat.
Mm,
There's a boiler system. There's pipes that run through the walls with hot water flowing through them. And so I do believe that maybe what people are hearing when they think they hear footsteps above is often just the sound of the hot water heat expanding through the walls. Um, we also did hear some weird noises that could have been voices, but there was just enough like ambient noise, whether it's from like, because there's multiple heating systems in that building. So there's
yeah.
forced air heating, there's the hot water heating. Um, and in my experience, at least, if you're in a space where there's enough ambient noise, it's easy for your ears to start hearing what might be voices and stuff like that, or what you might perceive to be voices.
Yep.
And then there was also a point in time where we heard this. At the time, I didn't know what it was. It sounded familiar, but I was like, I just don't know what that sound is. And then one of the guys that I was with, he's like, oh, it sounded like ice falling. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what it sounded like. And then we went over to where the bar was because we were trying to figure out where the sound came from. And I wondered if there was an ice machine.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so we went over to where the bar was. There was no ice machine, but the little bar sink was filled with ice. And
Oh, so it must
so,
have shifted or something.
yeah, I'm guessing as it melted, it probably,
Yeah.
collapsed a little bit or whatever. And so the funny thing, though, that happened to me, the same folks that I did the investigation with at the Tommy Douglas Center, um, we I had to leave. They chose to sleep in the building, and I did that once at the Tommy Douglas Center. And I've worked very hard to afford a nice bed, and I did not want to sleep on the floor again. So I chose. I've done it once. I thought I was like, that's enough for me. I'm just gonna go home and I'm gonna sleep in my own bed. And so I left them, and they spent the rest of the night sleeping. And interestingly enough, after I left, they had all these experiences, which I think speaks to feeding off energy and
Yeah.
getting each other amped up. And so as I was leaving, I was helping them move some cameras before I left. And so we had walked into the bathroom space, and there was like a fire door that had been propped open as
Yeah.
we walk into the bathrooms. And I bumped it, and it was just one of those wooden wedges, I think, that was keeping the door
Oh, yeah,
propped
yeah.
open.
Yeah.
And the wedge slipped and the door closed. And so fast forward when I'm watching their video, that happened again, and they were like, "Oh no, it's paranormal." And to me, I was like, "No, I think it was just this was after I'd left, so I'll let them have their paranormal experience." But to me, looking back on just what happened to me that night, there were logical explanations for what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the most recent investigation that I've been on. There's been talk about maybe doing it again in the summer months where they don't have the heat running,
Right.
where you could maybe shut off the air conditioning system,
Yeah.
and maybe eliminate some of those noise.
Extra noise. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe if I'm invited back to do that, but like I said, I think there's a bit of a disconnect between the type of stuff that they want to experience and then me looking for a logical reason for things. So
Yeah.
maybe I won't be invited to go back, which is fine. But if the situation does arise, there are some cool buildings here in Saskatchewan that I would absolutely love to venture through, whether it's for a paranormal investigation, like a formal investigation,
Yeah.
or if it's just for the opportunity to visit again, like the Gravelberg Convent comes to mind.
Oh, yeah.
I toured that building, I don't know, it's probably 8 years ago now. Um, maybe not that long, but I would love to go back. If I could do an investigation, that would be awesome. I don't know if I'd be brave enough because the bigger the building is, the more intimidating it seems.
Yeah, that's true.
um, so I would welcome that opportunity. There's I forget what the name of the business is, but there's the computer store in Regina
Yeah,
on
computer clinic,
College. Yes, I
I
think you're
think.
right. That building, of course, has some stories that I think would be cool to go in and investigate a little bit. And then, on my wish list, bucket list item. I don't know if we should talk about a bucket list when you're talking about
Oh yeah.
ghosts, because maybe I'll be on the other side of it someday. But St. Louis Ghost Train. If I could get
Ah,
out there and experience that, I would certainly jump at the opportunity. So there are still a few items on my list. I also last year almost planned, like a lot of people around Halloween were saying I should do something around Halloween. And so I almost did like a scary Saskatchewan live type of thing
oh yeah.
where, because I have so many people in like Duck Lake and Prince Albert that watch my content. And then I thought it would be really cool to go into like the Prince Albert Arts Center, which is another
Oh,
building that has a long history of ghost
yeah.
stories. And the Prince Albert Historical Society does a ghost walking tour of Prince Albert. So
Okay.
I thought it would be cool to partner with them to do the ghost walk tour,
Yeah.
and then maybe end um, at the Prince Albert Art Center, and then kind of cap it off with scary Saskatchewan stories.
Yeah.
Um, and so I thought about doing that last year. The timing didn't quite work out, but I think it would maybe be cool to do something like that at some point in the future as well. And
Yeah.
so we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think there's lots of possibilities for sure.
And for those of you who love the paranormal side of the show, I have been posting some ghostly extras inside my Ghoul Guild. Early looks at the ghost guides I am building, behind the scenes recordings, and some stories that are a bit too strange to put into the main episodes. If that interests you, you can find it on my Patreon, KDK Ghoul Guild. There is more information on my website at kdkulpa.com. Oh, I guess we should wrap up here. The time has just flown by.
It really has.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there
I mean,
anything else you want to share before we wrap up or?
you know what? I think just if you are interested in Saskatchewan ghost stories, I do encourage you to check out my TikTok. There is a playlist there of scary Saskatchewan stuff. It is kind of old now. Maybe we can revisit some of those stories at some point in the future. But yes, please do check out my TikTok at YouSayWhoa. And yeah, feel free to get in touch with me if you have any ghost stories that you want to share, because I'm always ready to hear a good ghost story.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Mhm.
Or if the listeners have any ideas of some fun live event we could do come Halloween,
Yes, that would
let
be
us
fun.
know too.
Actually, you know what is really cool too is I know in Swift Current or south of Swift Current, there's the haunted village of Lille sur Mer. I think it's a
Yeah.
French, and I can't pronounce French properly, but it is like a haunted village that they put together, and they raise money for charities in the Swift Current area.
Oh, that's cool too.
Um, and that would be a cool thing that I've thought about doing as well. So yeah, I would be curious to hear about any Halloween events coming up too, because haunted houses, ghost tours, ghost walks, all those types of things. That's what keeps me interested in the world of paranormal,
Oh,
even if
definitely.
I'm becoming skeptical in my old age.
I think it's good to have a skeptic though.
I
Gotta
think
have
so
someone.
too. I think so too. And you know what? Like I said, I'm not completely closed off to the idea of having an experience, but yeah, I would welcome it actually. So we'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. You're always welcome to come back if you start something new.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Cool.